And now we have our next guest on the show with us, who's responsible for many great documentaries that we have seen. And he has a new project he's working on, The Id, which he's going to explain to us. Thank you for coming back on the show with us, man.
Oh, it is so good to be back. I know it's been a while since I've done this. I think the last time we did this was when I had Crystal Lake Memories coming out, I think, which was 2 years ago.
3, I think, 2013.
Was it?
Yeah.
Was it? Wow, I don't even remember. They're all blending in. All the behind the scenes things are blending into one,
and
which
that was
is kind of cool.
That was set up by
crazy,
14. And that was set up by 1428 Studios, right?
It was 1428. Dan Ferens is my oftentimes producing partner. We do a lot of stuff together. So we did Crystal Lake Memories together, Never Sleep Again, the Nightmare doc. We did Inside Story Scream, and lots of fun stuff.
Okay, so you just mentioned the Scream thing, and we're gonna get to the Id real quick because I know that's really important to you. But you mentioned just Scream, and Wednesday, my co-host, say hello, Wednesday.
Hello.
Hello.
She mentioned the Scream documentary that you did, which always escapes me that you did that. Matthew Lillard and Skeet Ulrich were here at Rocket Shock this weekend.
Nice.
And the artist for the Scream documentary that you did, Tim Seeley.
I did. I'm not for our. No. Without, I think that's the other. There's another documentary.
Oh, I'm sorry, dude.
And I think that that's okay.
But they're on the same Blu-ray. They're on the same Blu-ray set. That's probably why
they're on the same Blu-ray. Yeah, they're both on the same Blu-ray box set disc. There's the fourth disc is 2 of the documentaries, and the one that Dan and I did was Inside Story Scream, which was originally made for Biography Channel, and then it got put onto the 4-disc Blu-ray.
Yes. Okay. But you didn't do the other one.
I did not do the other one.
Okay. All right. I was gonna say Tim Seeley's got the.
So we don't need to talk
book.
about that one.
All right.
Guys.
No.
I'm kidding.
Sorry. No. Love both documentaries.
You're trying to get back on track. It's okay.
Okay. Now you were talking a little bit about The Id, which is your brand new movie.
Yes. It is a feature film. It comes out on Blu-ray October 25th. We are doing a pre-release signing with cast and crew, including the star Amanda Wyss, who many of your listeners will know was the lovely Tina in the original A Nightmare on Elm Street. So we're doing a signing for the pre-release at Dark Delicacies Bookstore on October 23rd, and it'll be a bunch of the cast, some of the crew, a way to, meet Amanda and a bunch of other people, and we're really excited about it. And if you don't live in the LA area, you can still order it from their website and Dark Delicacies because they're incredibly awesome. We'll ship it to you. So I encourage everyone to grab a copy from Dark Delicacies, support independent films, support Dark Dells, and hopefully go along for the thrills, chills, and suspense with Amanda in the movie.
Awesome. So what can we expect from this movie?
It's, it's kind of a weird, thrillery, drama-y, suspenseful, darkly humorous, little movie. It's about a woman who's taking care of her elderly father, and he is not the nicest person to her. And someone from her past kind of comes back into her life, and it sort of sets her on this trajectory of her plan to extricate herself from under her father's thumb. And things kind of start snowballing in a direction that maybe she or the father hadn't planned, and it gets a little wacky, a little dark, a little crazy. I'm really proud of it. Amanda's really proud of it. We worked really, really hard, and I think people are really going to enjoy it. And so far, some of the pre-release reviews have been really, really good. They're really talking up Amanda's performance, which I'm so proud of. She poured her heart and soul into the movie, and I think if you like, twisty, turny, dark character studies and really weird, darkly comic suspense thrillers, I think you're going to dig it.
Yeah, no, I'll definitely order it. You're clearly very proud of it. I'm happy for you. It sounds awesome.
Thank you so much. Well, it's my directorial debut, so it's really, really exciting that as a first-time director, I got to not only put something on the screen that I'm really, really proud of and that I thought was really interesting and different. But, I got to work with Amanda. And even though we've been friends, it's so different when you get to work with someone that is an icon in the genre. It was really, really exciting to watch her bring the character to life and kind of step back and every once in a while remind myself, like, she was Tina in A Nightmare on Elm Street. She was in Fast Times at Ridgemont High. She was in Silverado. I mean, it was just really, really a great experience, I think, for me as a fan of her work and also just someone who wanted to bring to life a movie that I was really excited about. And the script was written by a guy that I knew and had worked with before. His name is Sean Stewart. And it's such a interesting little tight, taut little thriller. I'm just really proud of it, and I hope people really enjoy it.
Oh, I'm sure they will. And congratulations on your directorial debut.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
You're welcome.
You also worked... go ahead.
Oh, no, you go ahead.
We brought up Matthew Lillard because you worked with... You did the Scream the Inside Story writer. You were the writer on the Scream the Inside Story. Was Matthew Shaggy in any of the episodes of Scooby Doo that you worked on?
He was. I didn't do episodes. I did the story for one of the movies and then additional material for another one. And he was actually, at the time, he was playing Scooby. I did not get to see him record. The day that I actually went to the record, it was still exciting because I got to go see Mindy Cohn, who many people know was Natalie in Facts of Life, and she was Velma. So it was just super exciting. But
she was Velma on the What's New Scooby Doo?
Yeah, she was Velma.
Okay.
Exactly. And she did Velma in a lot of the direct-to-video movies as well.
Oh, cool.
I worked on two of the direct-to-video movies. One of them was Scooby Doo and Where's My Mummy?
Yep.
And one of them. Listen, full disclosure, cute title, not our original title. Our original title was something like, I think it was darker. It was like The Curse of Cleopatra. And I think someone had said that might be too scary or something. And, and then my writing partner and I did some story material for Chill Out Scooby Doo, which was a direct-to-video about the abominable snowman, and that was super fun. So
yeah, wow, I used to love those when I was a kid. That's awesome.
It's super fun. I mean, it was interesting to learn, the ins and outs of how they do that, and just it was our first, professional writing credit, and it was kind of a trial by fire. It was a really fantastic process. The people over at Warner Brothers Animation were so amazing, so helpful in guiding. I mean, really, two newbie writers in not just writing, something that's going to get made, but writing for an iconic character. There are really things like Shaggy and Scooby would not do this, or they would do this. Velma would never say this, but she would say this. It was a really interesting experience, and it gave me a whole new appreciation for Scooby. Obviously, like you said, we all grew up watching Scooby Doo. So it was really, really cool to kind of get to work with Scooby. I can at least say that, I worked with Scooby Doo. It was pretty cool. He's a good guy.
That's the dream.
There was a Scooby Doo cartoon I was talking with Matthew about because he'd worked on it. The Scooby Doo Mysteries Inc. was the first serialized Scooby Doo cartoon where every episode was part of a larger story arc.
Interesting. Okay.
It's on Netflix. All 52 episodes are on Netflix. It's one of the best Scooby Doo cartoons. It not only is well written, it also makes fun of things about Scooby Doo that you don't like, but in really well done ways. And tons of voiceover actors are on the show, and they pay homage to a lot of past Scooby Doo cartoons and other Hanna-Barbera cartoons.
And I think that's one of the super fun things about what they were doing with the character and the franchises. They were like, let's be true to what Scooby Doo is, but let's have fun with it for a new generation. And, you mentioned Matthew, his name again, and you know what? It wasn't Matthew for Where's My Mummy? It was Casey Kasem, which is super cool. Super cool. So listen, I think Matthew Lillard as Shaggy is also awesome. Like, I love what he brought to the character in terms of voice and everything. But I'm thinking back and my wheels are turning, and it was Casey Kasem.
Okay. All right. We were first exposed to you, me and Wednesday, of course, going back to Never Sleep Again, which is now a book and now in softcover. And you've had a lot of success with this book based on the first Nightmare movie.
Yeah, thank you. I'm really, really proud of it. The book came along because there was so much information that did not make it into the documentary that I just realized, with the anniversary of the first movie coming up back at that time, I was like, why not try and put something together? Dan and I had talked about, if we could do another book, like he did the Friday the 13th Crystal Lake Memories book. He was the editor of that. Peter Brackey wrote that. And I had said, God, I would love to do something like that for A Nightmare on Elm Street. And as I started writing the book, sort of with the idea in mind that I would cover all the movies, I realized the chapter on A Nightmare on Elm Street was already like 160 pages, and I hadn't even finished the whole film. So I just realized, you know what, I'm going to just go for it, and I'm going to write the definitive look at the making of the original Wes Craven classic, and I'll do it in time for the film's anniversary. It was really exciting. I got to correspond with Wes a lot back and forth regarding that. I interviewed everybody all over again, found a ton of people that we couldn't find for the documentary or weren't available for the documentary. So it was just packed with so many new stories and new bits of information and correcting some things that were long time, rumors that were held as fact. And so I did the hardcover as a Kickstarter campaign, which was really successful. And I'm so excited that everyone who contributed helped that to happen. And now the paperback is out, and I'm really excited about that because it's everything that was in the hardcover and a little more in terms of the stories and the text. And it has, I think it has over 400 pictures. They're black and white, but they're still great photos. It's a chock full of information and images paperback. And it's available on Amazon still. And I just like to point out, it's under $10. It's like so much A Nightmare on Elm Street information for under $10. I'm just so excited that it's super accessible to everybody.
That's really good considering the hardcover book is out of print. You can't find it. It's hard to get, and it's also a mammoth book.
It is hard to get. You can go to eBay. I know there's some on eBay.
Those people on eBay piss me off because they're price gouging the fuck out of you. You know what I mean? And I know capitalism is like what it is, but they just take advantage of horror fans. And you're not taking advantage of horror fans. Yeah. You have a $10 book. It's $10, and it's yours. You can charge more.
Honestly, it's why I did the paperback. Because I wanted the book to be super, super accessible because I'm really proud of the information in that book, as are a lot of the people who contributed.
Yeah, and you should be.
And I thought, why not make this as accessible to everyone as possible? So yeah, it's under $10. Everyone can get it. I'm really happy that it's out there, and I hope more and more people can get it. And every once in a while when I do an appearance at a show or a convention, I have a couple of the hardcovers, in my little private author stash that I, bring out, and they're a little more expensive because they're out of print. There's only so many in existence, and even when the ones I have are gone, it's gone. But the paperback, I hope, will just continue to have a life of its own. Because again, it's super fun. It's super interesting. I love the stories. It's fun. It's humorous. Everyone can grab it. And again, like you said, under $10, man. Amazon.com, under $10. Never Sleep Again, the book.
That's awesome. I love that you're more or less just doing it for the fans. Not enough people do that.
Well, I'm a fan. I didn't. Listen. I don't know how many people out there who are writing books are, making millions and trillions of dollars, because I'm certainly not. And that's fine because I love what I do. And I definitely wanted to make something, as a fan for the fans. And I hope that people, who have it appreciate it. And so far I've heard that people do. And I hope that more people get it if they're interested in A Nightmare on Elm Street, because it definitely is, the look at the making of that movie. And I think even more than that, there's a whole chapter on Wes's career. Listen, we know a lot about Wes's career. It's been talked about for a long time. But it was just, I think, a nice thing to put in there to kind of help people who maybe don't know understand who Wes was as a filmmaker. And then there's an entire chapter on Bob Shea and New Line Cinema. And that definitely offered a lot of insight because, he was fantastic to interview. He gave me so many great stories and so much great information. And it takes people through the, once you get to the making of the movie part, it's the development, the production, the post-production, marketing, release, and legacy. It is, I think, everything one could really want to know. And frankly, I still have reams and reams of interview information that I couldn't fit in the book. There are still some hidden secrets locked away that people have told me that maybe one day I'll be able to put into a new edition or something. But, right now it's definitely a book that I'm proud of, and I hope people enjoy it when they get it.
Oh, you should be proud. That sounds amazing. I'm definitely going to pick one up soon.
Oh, thank you.
Oh, you're welcome.
Are you really happy that because it's been a couple years since both documentaries, Crystal Lake and Never Sleeps Again, have been out, but I was at Best Buy recently and they were Crystal Lake was at Best Buy and I was really surprised. Are you happy that it's getting back out there again, because it kind of disappeared from shelves for a little while?
Yeah, it's interesting. It changed distributors, and there was that kind of middle ground where it was like, oh gosh, once it's off the shelf, it might be off the shelf. And then the second distributor came back and they really made another push for it. So yeah, it's kind of fun. And I'm really happy that it is more accessible. I mean, listen, with the whole Amazon thing, it's like everything is quote unquote accessible, but it is nice to be able to go into your local Best Buy and browse the shelves and pick something up that you might not have been thinking about. So I love when I go into a Best Buy and I see Crystal Lake Memories or Never Sleep Again or More Brains, the Return of the Living Dead documentary. It's exciting, and I'm really, really happy that there's enough fans out there who are enjoying these kinds of behind-the-scenes making of looks that make them interesting enough for distributors to want to continue to put them out, because, it's a look at the movies that we love done by people who love these movies, and I really think that's important. It's not just throwing it together because it's a great title. I mean, I know that, I have been approached, and Dan and I together have been approached about doing documentaries on other movies, and people will say, well, we think this will sell because so-and-so is coming out with a sequel, or this title hasn't been exploited. And if it's not something we're passionate about, it's not something we really want to do, because these things take a lot of time. And they take a lot of energy. You really have to love what you're doing to go into that world for about a year. I mean, Crystal Lake Memories was at least a year, if not a little more. I know that Never Sleep Again was 9 months, because I used to say it's like having my nightmare baby. It's a long time to really be doing nothing but focusing on basically a movie or a franchise. So I'm just happy that distributors are really picking up on these kinds of shows, because fans love them. And I think it's important to kind of keep the legacy of these movies that we love alive, and that movies that are inspiring kind of the new characters and horror and franchises of today.
I have an idea from my own documentary. I have a book documentary about New England horror filmmakers that has kind of been festering for a while, and just never been able to find like the right publisher that I feel comfortable with, or anyone who wants to publish it. Making another attempt, coming up with a local new publisher that started up in Salem, Massachusetts. A couple guests that we had on the show recently. But Fun Dead Publications Wednesday. They said to send it over. But I have another idea for an actual biography documentary about a recently departed director, and I was told I need to start with a team. I've been told you need to start with a family. A lot of advice coming from different places, but it's something I feel really passionate about, and it wouldn't just be for it's definitely not for money. It's for the love of who this person was. You might have an idea who I'm talking about, and I think I may have mentioned it to you. And it's connected to works.
Even if I do, I'm not. I won't throw it out into the world. We don't want to get anyone else any ideas.
But it connected to stuff you've worked on, and I just I feel really passionate about it. It's all kind of talk right now, so it's something that I know would take up at least not just a year, at least a good couple of years of my life, just to track people down for interviews.
Yeah, I mean, that is really the hardest part. A lot of these documentaries of people asking, what was the most difficult part? And a lot of people are just like, was it getting star X to be in the documentary, now that they're famous? And it's like, that's never the issue. It's rarely an issue of people outright saying no, or I'm not interested, or my client would never do that. Usually it's just scheduling. I mean, and it's anybody. It's people who have been only in one movie. You know what? People have lives, and they're busy, and they have jobs, and it's just hard to get people to commit to sitting down in a chair for 45 minutes to an hour to talk about something they did 30 years ago when they have so many other things going on in their life. Or if you are, let's say, Johnny Depp, you live in France half the time. Things are just tough. I mean, the good news is on all of our shows, we've been really, really lucky and blessed that we've had smooth sailing, in the sense that it was easy, in quotes, to get people in the chair because they were excited to talk about it. And the people that we didn't get, you know, there's so much behind the scenes going on. We were close to getting, and I know I've said this before, you know, Patricia Arquette's people were so wonderful about the potential of her taking part in the Nightmare on Elm Street documentary, but she was on Medium at the time. She was very busy. It was really, really hard. We were almost, you know, talking about going to see her on the set, I think, to snag a couple sound bites, and it just didn't work because of the schedule of that show, and that's just the way it is, and it's disappointing, but scheduling is really the toughest part, which brings me back to the fact that you, like you said, you have to have passion. I mean, passion is paramount. You just have to love what you're doing enough to be able to keep hearing, no, that won't work, or no, we can't do this, or no, 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 so you can keep going on. So ultimately it's a yes. And, you know, that's just the thing about all these shows. And I think entertainment in general, whether you're a writer, a producer, a director, casting director, actor, whatever, you have to love what you do. And, you know, I'm really lucky. I'm making my living doing what I love. And I can't be happier than being able to say that.
Yeah, no, it definitely sounds like you love what you do. You definitely need, you know, that little bit of inspiration to keep you going.
I used your documentary. I used the commentary on the Friday Part 6 film itself, but I also used your documentary, went over it several times to find out what not to ask the director, Tom McLaughlin, of Friday Part 6, because we had him on the show, and then I did a write-up for DreadCentral.com, who I do videos for now, for the because this is the 30th anniversary of Friday Part 6. And your documentary came in very handy to be like, okay, all right, that was asked about. All right, let's not talk about that. Okay, let's see what else. He never talks about this. Awesome, because I'm like writing stuff down, trying to think of a question. I'm like, yes, he never talked about this. He never talked about this. It was like two things. I can't remember what they are at the top of my head right now. But there's two things on my interview with him and on the Dread Central interview that you never bring up. I was so proud. And it's not in the commentary either. It's not in the commentary.
What are they? And it'll probably help me remember if there's something that we just didn't fit in, or maybe we just never asked.
You go into a little bit of when the kids are brought up, almost nobody goes into anything more other than the little girl who says the prayer when Jason leans in, and you know the casting with her. Other than that, there's not much talked about with the kids. The other thing that's not mentioned that much is, or mentioned at all, is the weapons use and like the machine gun, and transportating of like the weapons got caught up with police, and there were some problems with local law enforcement and authorities.
You know what? That I think Dan did. There's something about that we didn't put in, and I think it might have been for time, or it might have been a segue thing. There's a little piece of that I know we have in the transcripts. I think the thing with the kids, I think that we tried to find some of the kids, and we didn't have time to get them in for interviews or something. So I think it was a topic that was like, you know, can we live without it? I mean, again, the show is 7 hours long.
Yeah. And I also heard that like
you
child labor record keeping in the 80s and 70s is not what it is today.
Oh, well, I mean, God, I think back to, everything was probably written down on pieces of paper with pencil, mimeographed. I mean, half the stuff is probably gone. I mean, we've actually gotten from a lot of our shows back then, we would get call sheets or whatever, and they were like literally, and we've seen the originals, and they were written sometimes in pencil, and you can barely read them because everything, the graphite has just been wiped away. And it's like, yeah, I'm sure that there's like, you know, social security numbers and phone numbers that are probably like etched onto other pieces of paper that were written in pencil for these poor children who are now adults. But that's the thing. I mean, you honestly could explore these movies forever. I mean, I can tell you right now, Dan, you know, went through the ringer in terms of editing on Crystal Lake Memories. I am sure that, you know, we could have had a 14-hour show. We could have easily done 90 minutes on every single movie.
Did you ever watch Leviathan?
Yeah, it's like 4 hours.
No,
Or
longer. That's one movie.
Is it? I thought it was like 4 hours on.
Oh,
it's on
my
Hellraiser
God.
1 and 2, right?
Hellraiser 1 and 2.
Or all of
Okay,
them.
just Hellraiser 1 and 2, not the bonus material, but Hellraiser 1 and 2 is 7.5 hours long.
Oh my God.
Wow.
Yeah,
That's really
and they
long.
even said, now they're any day now, any fucking day, they're finally going to announce when we're going to get Fright Night, because they keep saying, it's coming this month, it's finally
I just
happening.
saw another little teaser thing too. Yeah.
Yeah.
Listen,
They're promising it's
I
going to come,
think
but they
that
said that we're not making the same mistake we made with Hellraiser. We learned a lot of things about editing, and the next Hellraiser Leviathan that comes out, because they're putting out another one. I think they're putting it out on Blu-ray because it's only been out on DVD, and it's going to come packed with Arrow. Arrow Video is releasing Hellraiser 1, 2, and 3. Let's face it, the only really great ones. Because those are the ones that Clive really worked on.
Well, and those were also, I think, those are the theatrical. I think Hellraiser 3 was the last theatrical.
4 was in theaters.
I believe. Bloodline was in theaters?
I remember going to the theater, that being the very first Hellraiser movie I ever saw.
Wow.
And,
I think it must have been limited, though. I know 1, 2, and 3 were pretty accessible.
So if you
wide.
actually include 3 in their documentary, which they do dedicate 45 minutes to 3, then it's a total of 8 hours and 15 minutes.
That is a lot.
And that's not counting the
Hellraiser.
bonus material.
That is crazy.
It pans out to 11 hours.
I mean, listen, you know what? And frankly, it could be 15. And I think if someone put out a 15-hour show, it could be 16. There's just always going to be things. And there's always going to be people who haven't talked. I mean, even in my Nightmare book, I got most of the Jump Rope girls, but I didn't get them all.
Oh.
So, yes, there are probably still stories out there from that last Jump Rope girl that we've never heard. So, one day...
Or
I'll
Robert
find her
wakes up
and
one day
talk
and
to
he
her.
just calls you and he's just like, oh my God, I just completely forgot about this thing that happened on set.
Yeah, I just remembered this one thing. I mean, that's the thing, too. Going back to something else, it's like, when you were talking about what to ask someone and what not to ask someone, I think the thing that, particularly on the shows that Dan and I do, we really do a lot of research and we think, okay, what do the fans already definitely know that we either don't have to worry about at all or can really gloss over, or what are the fans really interested that they do know? Like take, Nightmare on Elm Street, for instance, the death of Tina, which is arguably one of the greatest, most awesome, scary kills in the entire franchise. Everyone knows about that kill now. It's like there's nothing that new to uncover. So it's like, I think as time goes on, when people speak about Nightmare on Elm Street or they're talking to, say, Amanda, about the movie, it's like probably easier to gloss over the kill on the ceiling because I think we all know that it was in a revolving room and she got vertigo and blah, blah, blah. But there's still so much to explore, and there's probably stories that Amanda, has never talked about because they haven't been brought up or something hasn't jogged her memory and things like that. But yeah, I mean, again, it all comes down to passion. I mean, you're pouring your heart and soul into something. You want to see 7, 8, 9, 10, 15 hours. I mean, on some movies, there are some movies that do not need 7 hours. I mean,
No. I think Hellraiser, sorry, not Hellraiser, Fright Night's going to be, I think they said 4 to 5 hours, including bonus material. Fright Night.
That's but it's Fright Night 1, Fright Night 2, right?
And they're
I think it's
covering,
the remake, isn't it?
They are covering the remake, and they gave the remake a little extra something because Anton Yelchin died, unfortunately.
Yeah, I know, that's sad. No, and again, it all comes down to people who are willing to spend the time and, just the sweat equity in putting these things together because
they kickstarted it.
They
did it on Kickstarter.
Yeah, I mean, these are not, studio created things where gobs of money is being thrown to put something together. These are, again, they're fans. We are putting these kinds of things together because we love these movies. We think there's a story to tell. We think there's an interesting story to tell, and we think there's a story that fans want to hear. It's funny because I just went the other day, and I have to talk about it. It was there's a duo of people, Ryan Mercy and Christopher Barnes. They do these kind of parody musicals, and I just went and saw their parody musical of A Nightmare on Elm Street called A Bad Dream on Elm Avenue. And it's playing now through October 16th at the the Atwater Village Theater here in LA. And I really urge fans of definitely Nightmare on Elm Street and fans of musicals and fans of the genre and parody stuff to check it out. It's so fun and so funny. And it really comes back to that thing where you're doing something you love because you know that the people involved in this show and making these other shows, they love it. And I love that they combined that passion for, musicals and parody with one of my favorite things, which is A Nightmare on Elm Street. So I had to give them a shout out because I just saw it on Friday evening and I really had the best time. It was so fun. It's called A Bad Dream on Elm Avenue at the Atwater Village Theater. So listeners, if you're in LA, try and check it out because you'll get a kick out of it. So that's my little public service announcement.
It was a good announcement.
For other Elm Street related, I call them Elm Street adjacent. Like that's an Elm Street adjacent. I posted on, I think, Twitter a couple days ago, Elm Street adjacent, and I posted about my movie, The Id, obviously because of Amanda Wyss. If you're a fan of Amanda, I think you'll dig the movie. But it's nice that there's like a lot of Elm Street adjacent items I can talk about.
Yeah, definitely.
Give out the information for people can pick up any of your work that's available and still in print, and let them know where they can find the id.
I would say the best place
I mean the identification. No, I mean the id. I'm kidding.
The identification. Yeah, you know what? Let me say it's it's something that I'll throw out there because we talked about this, earlier. It's funny because it's the id, like Freud's id, ego, superego, and gobs of people understand that. The problem is the poster has the entire title in capitals, even the THE. So I think people are just making an assumption when they write it that it's the ID, but it's not. It's the id. It is based in the whole Freudian concept of what the id is, your innermost desires and your base emotions and, me. But anyway.
So, do you relate to it also in a way when people mispronounce your first name?
What'd you say?
I said, do you also relate it to a way when people mispronounce your first name?
Well, that's really interesting because sometimes people will come up to me and literally they'll see my name spelled on something if I have it on a piece of paper or if I have like a name badge on for something. And they'll look at it and they'll seriously go, oh, how do you say that? And I'll be like, oh, it's pronounced Fred. I mean, because it makes me giggle because I don't think anyone looks at Thomas, which is THOMAS, and wonders how to say that. But I think the H in my name and my first name, which is actually Thommy, THOMMY is actually my name. I think it throws people because it is a little odd. So if people call me Thommy, that's fine. People have been doing it all my life. But the funniest thing I get a lot of times is people will call me Timothy. And I think it's the H completely throws them and they just rearrange the letters in their mind. And I become Timothy. And that's when I'm like, okay, that's way off. I'm like, I'm just not that guy. I can't even, if you called that across the room, I'm never going to turn around.
Well,
but
you
yeah,
might
so
if
the id,
people
yeah.
call you.
Wait, say again?
Oh, you might if people start calling you it enough.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I could just really, go. I'll be like, yeah, but I guess it's Timothy. That's who I am. And so anyway, so where can people get the stuff I've worked on? The id, I encourage people to go to the Dark Delicacies website, darkdel.com, and get it from them because it's a pre-release a couple days before the actual release. It's October 23rd is when we're doing the signing, and it will be signed by me, Amanda, Dan, and most of the other cast. Our composer, Sean Hennessy, who did a great job. He did the music for Never Sleep Again. He did music, I think, for Scream. He did a bunch of the shows that we've worked on. So, yeah, I encourage people to go to darkdel.com and order it from them, and you'll get a signed copy, which is great. And there might be some other goodies thrown in, which we're going to talk about probably starting next week. And then if you don't do that, you can always get it on Amazon.com, the id. And similarly with the other shows, I would say Amazon's probably your safest bet because they're pretty much going to be in stock. You'll get it, in a couple days. If you have Prime, you get it in 2 days for free. And my book, definitely Amazon. It's in bookstores. I know I've seen it at a bunch of Barnes & Nobles, but, nothing against Barnes & Noble and bookstores in general. But if it's easy for you to shop on Amazon, go for it because it's literally under $10. So, yeah, that's that.
Awesome. Well, hey, man, thank you so much for coming on the show. We'll definitely have to have you on for a much longer chat, and we'll go through, the documentaries that you worked on that we really love in much greater detail, too.
Yeah, that would be great. Definitely, let's do that.
Cool, awesome. Thank you so much, and hey, have a happy Halloween.
Yeah,
you guys have one too, definitely, and we'll talk soon.
Thanks. Bye.
All right, thanks. Bye.
So how was that, talking to the man behind some of the best documentaries you've seen of the horror industry?
That was amazing. It's just so nice to see somebody so passionate and just genuinely excited about what they do. He was a great guest.
A couple things I wanted to point out just before we happen to close out tonight's episode of Radio of Horror. Coming up October 29th at That's Entertainment in Worcester, Massachusetts, you can come out and see me as I debut Resurrection of Dracula, a little self-promotion on my own show. It's my show, so I'm going to fucking do it. $3, new issue, Resurrection of Dracula, the prequel comic book to the upcoming graphic novel. Something else I want to recommend checking out, this was handed me as I was leaving That's Entertainment. Vampire Hunter D, Message from Mars preview edition has come out. I kickstarted this comic book. This is a new Vampire Hunter D story coming out. I did the Kickstarter. It'll be out in your local comic book stores. If you're not familiar with what Vampire Hunter D is, shame the fuck on you, because Vampire Hunter D is one of the best goddamn anime movies ever. Based on many books, there are 25 novels in the Vampire Hunter D story. Can you believe that?
Holy wow, no, I can't.
Yeah, and only 2 of the stories have been made into movies. Vampire Hunter D volumes 1 and 3 were made into Vampire Hunter D and Vampire Hunter D Bloodlust.
So they used 1 and 3. What about 2?
2 felt like a kind of a rehash of the first story a little bit. In some ways it is, in some ways it's not. So that's why they decided to do 3. 3 is about a missing girl, and a count has taken her, and a bunch of bounty hunters were hired by the family, and D was hired as well. So it's a race against time to rescue the girl, only to find out that she wants to be with the vampire, and she's in love with him.
Twilight.
Yeah, well, no, not even close.
Not
there's
terrible.
like boobs and blood and awesomeness in this, and there's no boobs in Twilight, unless you watch the Twilight porn.
Oh my god. Well, of course they have one of those.
Of course, and I've only ever seen the second one.
Okay, whoa.
Purely for the reasons of doing this show. I swear. Of course. Sure. Also, out at your local comic book store by my buddy Tim Seeley, who's been on the show a few times, agreed to come back on the show once the comic book's out, so we need to send him a little tweet and say, hey, buddy, there's books in stores, come on out. The Lost Boys, issue number 1 by Vertigo Comic Books. Awesome. Fantastic.
Yeah, the art looks incredible.
Not going to tell you how it ends, but Jesus Christ, it is set immediately after the events in the movie in the 80s. Sam's working at the comic book store with the Frog Brothers. The Frog Brothers want to be initiated into the local vampire hunting group, which is led by Grandpa, because if you remember how the Lost Boys ended, of course, vampire, revealed that Grandpa has known all about the vampires in town.
Yeah.
So check that out and pick up a copy of the Drive-In Horror Show comic book by my buddy Michael Neal. And that's all the time we have here tonight on the Radio of Horror. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you, Wednesday, for stopping in to do the show with us once again.
Oh, no problem. Thanks for having me on.
I don't know who's going to be on the show next week, as we have a huge recording we have to do for Dracula next weekend, but I do know we will have a guest on the show. I'll be checking my emails and posting about it later on Facebook later this week, so that way everyone, including Wednesday, will know who's coming on the show. Look for Wednesday's blog post tomorrow, a new write-up of something. She's had a couple days off, so she's got something new for us, and she's going to have our review of Shadows in Salem, right?
Yeah.
You don't have to finish the whole book in order to do a review, by the way, since they're all independent short stories separate from the other stories. So just do one up based on what you've read, and we'll post that on the website ASAP.
Awesome.
Cool. Well, everyone, have a good night.
See ya.